Just enjoy and listen to, and have a fun of it.
Side of fun. Story radio station, Janchi Gancha. Hey everyone, before we really get started today, could you do us a quick favor? Help Story Radio Station keep bringing you these kinds of stories. Just hit subscribe, maybe give us a like, and turn on those notifications. It honestly helps us a lot.
It really does. Okay, so today we are diving deep, really deep into K-pop. We're looking at the untold story behind its global empire.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows K-pop is huge, right? It's like this massive cultural force everywhere. But what got us curious, what's driving this deep dive, is figuring out how they actually did it. What's the blueprint? How did they build this thing to reach this, frankly, staggering global position?
Exactly, because it's not just music. K-pop is, well, it's this really unique model. It combines industrial level quality, being super quick with digital stuff, and, this incredibly intense fan involvement.
A unique cultural economic model, you could say. It's turned South Korea into one of the fastest growing music markets out there. Definitely. So let's unpack that blueprint. Part one. We'll trace how this whole system got built step by step and how it set the stage for that big digital explosion.
Okay, so the foundation. Let's call it the first generation. That's roughly the 90s up to about 2004.
Right. This is where K-pop really starts as this cool thing for young people. It was mixing Western sounds, hip-hop, R&B, even some rock with a distinctly Korean flavor.
And you got to start with the icons, right? Seo Taiji and Boys, they pretty much dragged the local music scene into the modern era.
They absolutely did. But if they were the modernizers, then groups like HOT, SES, especially the ones coming out of SM Entertainment, they were the system builders.
Ah, okay. So Seo Taiji opened the door, and then these groups, they built the house.
Sort of. Their agencies formalized it. They created this centralized, systematic approach, the Korean-style idol production system. That's the industrial foundation for everything that followed.
So the system's in place, standardized. That must have made the next step easier. The second generation, maybe 2005 to 2011.
Exactly. The focus shifted. Now, it was about official training programs and very calculated tests in international markets, primarily Japan, actually.
Right, with artists like Boe and TVXQ really making inroads there, laying groundwork.
Vital groundwork. And then you get this key moment in 2011. The SM Town World Tour hits Paris.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. That was a big deal, wasn't it?
Huge. It wasn't just another concert. It was the first major K-pop show in Europe. Drew something like 14,000 fans. It was proof positive that the demand wasn't just in Asia, it was global, ready to pop.
And that links back to the system, right? That standardized training.
Absolutely key, because the output, the music, the performance, the whole package was consistently high quality and basically pre-packaged for export. It was just sitting there ready to catch fire once the digital platforms really took off.
Which brings us perfectly to the third generation.
Yep.
And 2012. The watershed moment.
Yep. It's like Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
It just exploded globally. And the engine, YouTube and social media, SNS, as they often call it there.
That one song, that one video,
Yeah.
it showed the entire industry the sheer power of digital for getting your stuff seen everywhere, instantly.
Completely changed the playbook. And after that, the momentum just built and built. You started seeing groups like BTS, like Blackpink, actually breaking into the U.S. mainstream.
Which everyone knew was the toughest market to crack.
Right, yeah. Traditionally, yes. So seeing them succeed there was massive. And this global spread, it leads to an interesting idea that academics talk about.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, they're starting to frame Hallyu, the Korean wave, not necessarily as cultural imperialism, like some might assume,
Okay.
but more as a world wave. The idea is that it's aiming for cultural solidarity.
Yeah.
It creates this sort of shared culture that clicks with people across different countries and backgrounds.
World wave.
Yeah.
So less about dominating, more about connecting. Makes it easier to accept internationally, I guess.
That's the argument. It feels less like a top-down imposition.
Yeah. Of course, you look at the massive growth of the big companies now, and you wonder if that sharing vibe can last, or if it inevitably shifts towards, corporate dominance. But let's get into the engine itself.
Yeah.
That training system, it's legendary.
It really is. The duration alone is kind of mind-boggling. Anywhere from 3 years up to 13 years for some trainees.
13 years. Wow, that's intense. What are they even learning for that long?
It goes way beyond just singing and dancing. We're talking foreign languages, personality coaching, media training, etiquette, even managing their appearance. It's incredibly comprehensive.
Okay, that sounds grueling, but there's a business reason for this, isn't there? You mentioned something. IP risk.
Yes, exactly. Here's the critical insight from a business perspective. This incredibly long, detailed training functions as an intellectual property risk removal mechanism.
IP risk removal. Okay, break that down for me. What does that actually mean?
Think about it like this. From the agency's viewpoint, human artists are inherently unpredictable, right? They can cause scandals, they might want to change their musical style, they might just decide they don't want to perform anymore.
Yeah, the classic rock star problem.
Pretty much. So by standardizing everything, their skills, their language abilities, how they look, how they act, even their answers in interviews, the agency tries to minimize that human unpredictability.
They're engineering out the risk.
They're maximizing marketability and trying to guarantee a consistent, high-quality product that's ready for export. It's about control.
Wow, okay. Systematically removing the human variable. And this standardized product was just perfectly timed for the digital age, wasn't it?
Perfectly. K-pop agencies were way ahead of the curve globally in using things like official YouTube channels, social media. They embraced digital very early on.
And social media is crucial for the fan side too, right? Creating those connections.
Absolutely crucial. It fosters these really intense parasocial relationships, where fans feel this deep, personal, the one-sided connection to the idols.
And that emotional connection.
Yeah.
That translates directly into money.
Directly. It's why you still see massive sales of physical albums, often bought for the photo cards and extras, plus huge spending on merchandise, MD as they call it, and of course concert tickets. It's a very tightly integrated economic loop.
Emotional investment equals financial return. A whole creative economy built around the idol and the fan.
A really robust ecosystem, yeah, where almost every part of the artist's image and interaction is monetized through that fan devotion.
Incredible. Okay, we've seen how the system was built, how it standardized the product, and how it leveraged the digital world to go global. That's a solid foundation. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back for part 2, we'll dive into the money side, who's really winning, are there different strategies, and maybe some of the hidden costs and risks under the surface of this glittering empire. Stay with us.
Good evening, and welcome to the Story Radio Station, where we explore tales from around the world.
Different strategies, and maybe some of the hidden costs and risks under the surface of this glittering empire. Stay with us. Musical interlude. And we are back for part 2 of our deep dive into K-pop's global empire. Just before the break, we traced the history, the creation of the idol system, that idea of IP risk removal, and the digital leap that took it worldwide.
Right. We saw how the foundation was laid. Now let's get into the business side. Who's making the big money? How are they doing it differently? And what are some of the maybe less glamorous realities?
Let's start with the scale.
Yeah.
Because the numbers are just wild. We're talking about the big 4 companies, right?
HYBE.
HYBE, SM, JYP, and YG.
That's them and their combined revenue. Get this. It nearly tripled just between 2019 and 2023.
Tripled in 4 years.
Yep. It's now getting close to $3 billion US dollars, or around 4 trillion Korean won. It's explosive.
That's just mind-blowing growth. But what's really interesting is they aren't all doing it the same way, are they? Their strategies seem quite different. Let's talk HYBE first, obviously built on the success of BTS.
Right. HYBE's game is all about expansion and scale. Think multi-label, multi-genre. They've been buying up companies, diversifying, and crucially, they're trying to export the entire K-pop production system itself.
Like creating local groups using the K-pop method.
Exactly, like their group and team over in Japan. It's about replicating the model globally. Aggressive growth.
But I read somewhere that despite being the biggest, their profit margin isn't actually the highest, something like 4 to 8%.
That's the trade-off. They're spending huge amounts on acquiring companies, building infrastructure, expanding globally. It's a deliberate strategy. Sacrifice short-term profit margins for long-term market dominance. They're aiming to be, the Disney of K-pop, basically.
Okay, so HYBE is about scale. Now let's contrast that with JYP. They seem to be the opposite in some ways. Super efficient.
Yeah, JYP is really known for stability and efficiency. They consistently boast the highest operating profit margin of the big 4. We're talking around 24–25%, which is impressive.
Wow, that's a huge difference from HYBE's margin. How do they pull that off?
They run a leaner operation, generally fewer active groups compared to HYBE's expanding roster. They focus on maximizing the revenue from each act. And their key strategy is what they call globalization through localization.
Localization, so finding talent locally.
Precisely. They were pioneers in this. They go into overseas markets, select local talent, train them using the K-pop system in that country, and debut them there. Nitsu in Japan, Boy Story in China, perfect examples. It's highly efficient and builds local fan bases from the ground up.
Smart. Okay, so HYBE scales, GYP localizes efficiently. What about SM Entertainment? They seem to be betting big on the future, the metaverse.
That's a great way to put it. SM is pouring massive resources into their SM culture universe, the SUCU, and this whole metaverse strategy. You see it clearly with groups like aespa, who have virtual counterparts.
Why, though? Why such a huge bet on virtual reality and AI?
It's a really calculated long-term hedge against the volatility of human IP. Think about all the risks we touched on earlier. Mandatory military service for male idols in Korea, the potential for scandals, tough contract negotiations when renewals come up.
Right, the human unpredictability problem again.
Exactly. Virtual assets, AI idols, metaverse presences, they don't have those problems. They're stable, controllable, they don't age, they don't get into trouble, they can perform 24/7. It's SM's technological answer to inherent human risk.
That's kind of genius, kind of scary. Next level risk management for sure. Okay, rounding out the big four is YG. What's their angle?
YG's model has traditionally been more reliant on a smaller number of absolute global superstars. Think Blackpink, Treasure, more recently.
So high dependence on a few massive acts.
Yeah, which makes their performance potentially more volatile. If one key group is inactive or faces issues, it hits YG harder. Compared to the others, they also haven't invested as heavily in building their own distinct digital platforms or maybe quite as broad a merchandise strategy. This superstar dependency makes them sometimes seem like a riskier bet for investors.
Wow. It really is fascinating how four companies dominating the same space can have such radically different approaches.
Yeah.
And their collective success is driving the whole market, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Just look at the K-pop events, market concerts, fan meetings, that kind of thing. It's estimated at over $13 billion this year.
13 billion.
And projected to hit nearly $24 billion by 2032. That's a huge growth rate, about 7.5% compounded annually.
And it's not just ticket sales, is it? Their whole financial model seems different from traditional music.
It's much more diverse and robust. They figured out early how to generate significant income from multiple streams beyond just selling songs, which has notoriously low margins these days. Concerts, merchandise, brand sponsorships, paid digital content, it all adds up to a much healthier financial base.
And the ripple effect goes way beyond music, too. Fashion is a big one.
Huge. K-pop idols are major global fashion influencers. You see Blackpink members as ambassadors for huge luxury brands like Chanel, Dior, New Jeans collaborating with Levi's, Calvin Klein. They sell an entire image, a lifestyle.
It's like K-pop acts become these walking, talking export platforms for Korean culture and products.
Exactly. And that has a measurable national impact. Someone crunched the numbers for 2019 K-pop related tourism spending made up over half, 55.3% of all the money tourists spent coming into South Korea. That was like $1.1 billion. It boosts the whole national brand.
Okay, the success, the scale, the economic impact, it's undeniable. But we have to talk about the other side, the darker side maybe, the ethical issues.
We do. And probably the most significant structural issue is the trainee debt system.
Trainee debt. Explain that.
Okay, so agencies invest enormous sums developing a group before they even debut. We're talking upwards of $7.5 million, maybe 10 billion won or more per group. That covers training, housing, food, styling, music production, everything.
Right, massive R&D costs.
But here's the critical part, that financial risk. It's almost entirely transferred onto the artists.
Wait, how?
Through their contracts. Idols are typically obligated to pay back all of those pre-debut costs from their earnings after they debut. They start their careers deeply in debt to their own agency.
So they have to earn millions just to break even, personally. That seems problematic.
It creates what economists call a structural moral hazard. The agency has a massive incentive to work successful groups as hard as possible, as quickly as possible, to recoup that huge initial investment.
Which could lead to overwork, burnout.
Potentially, yes. And adding to the precariousness, many trainees are legally classified in this gray area, sometimes as interns or trainees, which can limit their access to standard labor law protections.
And we know there's specific pressures on female idols too, right?
Definitely. There's immense pressure to conform to a very specific, often quite submissive or lovely image. Expressing opinions that challenge that, maybe even identifying as feminist, can lead to really severe public backlash online. The system often doesn't adequately protect them as individuals.
We've seen tragic examples of what that pressure can lead to, and scandals like Burning Sun. They didn't just involve individuals, they exposed deeper systemic problems, didn't they?
They really did. Issues around exploitation, that power dynamics within the industry, attempts to cover things up. It creates this jarring contrast between K-pop's shiny global image and some very serious internal issues.
And these ethical concerns, the trainee debt, the scandals, they all highlight the inherent instability of relying completely on human performers, don't they? Which brings us back to technology.
It makes the industry's pivot towards AI and virtual idols seem almost inevitable, doesn't it? It's the technological fix for human unpredictability, developing these hyper-realistic virtual idols, building integrated metaverses like SM's SMCU. It's about ensuring stability and control in the long run.
So, less human risk, more controllable assets. And they're using tech to change the fan relationship, too. NFTs.
Yes, that's another fascinating angle. Some groups, like S, are experimenting with NFTs not just as collectibles, but as tools for fan governance, giving fans who own NFTs actual say in certain group decisions or subunit formations.
So fans go from just consuming to actually participating in the creation or direction.
Exactly. Shifting them from passive consumers to active participants or prosumers, it's a way to deepen engagement and potentially create new revenue streams within this emerging tokenized economy. K-pop could really lead the way here globally.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. What's the big picture takeaway from our deep dive today?
Well, I think it's clear K-pop's success isn't accidental. It's the result of a highly rationalized, almost industrial approach to culture. Strict discipline, yes, but also smart strategy, mastery of digital tools, and we should acknowledge some supportive government policies along the way.
A cultural economic machine, really.
And the path forward seems to be this blend of the human idol system with cutting-edge tech AI metaverse platforms combined with those smart localization strategies. The potential for growing their global market share even further seems immense. They're positioning themselves as a global creative industry hub.
But, and this is the final thought I want to leave everyone with, while the tech future with AI and NFTs looks bright and, frankly, very profitable, is that the ultimate answer?
What do you mean?
I mean, the biggest long-term challenge, the real test for K-pop's sustainability, might not be technological, it might be ethical.
Right.
Can the industry shift its primary focus from just maximizing sales volume and short-term hype towards genuine ethical governance and prioritizing the actual well-being of the human artists they depend on?
Balancing the immense profits against human sustainability.
Exactly. That feels like the final, most critical story that K-pop still needs to write for itself. How it navigates that balance will likely define its true legacy.
That's a really powerful point to consider. Wow. It's been fascinating digging into all of this today, the history, the strategies, the complexities, the future.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
You on what?